Hey YouTubers, so another day and another video on the YZ this time. So what we've got here for the first time for a long time is some new parts, and what we're looking at is a piston ring kit. Now this is an original kit and it has probably sat on a shelf for many years. The box has been battered and I bought that from the USA, and there's the part number. In that kit I got a new piston. This is a 1mm oversized piston, which I'm hoping is what I need for my engine, and that is looking a little marked, and it has got a slight ding on one corner, but otherwise pretty sweet. Look there carefully. Comes with two rings, so there's the part number on the rings, and hopefully when we get those together that clearance will do just about right on the ring gap. They certainly feel a lot firmer than the rings that are on the bike. And then I got a gudgeon pin, and the only other thing I needed to buy, I also got the circlips in that kit. The only other thing I needed to buy was a small end bearing, but for some reason my brain disconnected and I bought a spare gudgeon pin. So nice to see the part number is the same as the original one. Original one's never been out of the paper. This one's straight from Yamaha. I'll see if I can return that, but otherwise I'm going to be a bit stuck just having a spare one. Alright, so let's get into it. We'll get the bike torn down, get the head off, get the airbox off, the carburetor off, fuel tank, and the top end, and the exhaust, and then we'll get into it and see if they fit. Okay, let's get started. So, airbox off, carburetor off, and cylinder head just ready to come off. And there's what we're looking at from the last run. Looks a little bit wet, maybe still a bit rich. Could be the oil or could be the needle position. And then just looking at the cylinder, not looking too bad. And just while we're there, just try the new piston in the hole before we go any further, just in case. So a moment of truth. That's okay, but it's certainly not what you'd call tight. Not sure what I think about that. I think we'll get the old one off and compare it and see what the two go together like. And we'll just measure this one up as well. Alright, let's see how we go. Okay, so got both the pistons out compared to each other, and quite a few interesting things on here to look at. So first of all, they do seem both factory original. This one came from Yamaha. So you can see on the back there the ART and the number 1. This one's an ART and T4. This is L1. But on this side we've got a 51004 and a hand marked 912. This one is a 51005. Not sure of the difference there. I think that's just the casting. But the machining, the only major difference is these lines. So this one seems to have these score lines all around. This one doesn't. But putting them in the bore, measuring them both up, they're both 85 to 86 depending on where you measure them. And putting that in the bore, you can see that one is original. It's a little bit loose, as you'd expect with a bit of wear. But interestingly, the new one, much the same, a little bit tighter at the bottom. But once up in the bore, similarly, a little bit loose, nice and easy on the movement, a little bit loose, ready for the expansion when that heats up, when the engine starts. So pretty happy with that, pretty convinced that's a 1 oversized or 4 times oversized 1mm. So we'll get the new gudgeon pin in. This was the old one, so quite a bit of pitting on that one, outside of the bearing, and the bearing itself, probably a bit hard to see in the video, but some of the rollers are actually pitted on there as well, which is why I was changing those. And finally the rings, pretty big ring gap on those, probably similar to the new ones, so we'll get those on and get the piston in and just give that a try before we put it back in the bike. So just before we put this all back together, I thought I'd take off the exhaust flange. So I am missing the string that goes in there. I've got that on order, it's on back order at the moment. But this flange seals using one of these sort of crush washers. They're a bit weird. Not sure if that's factory or not, but I have ordered a new one and it came as part of this kit. You might have seen this in the other video, and I'm not sure if this will do the job, but with a bit of luck there should be a bit more crush in that and it should keep that a little bit more sealed up. So I think I'll put a bit of sealant on it anyway, just to help it sit in there, and with a bit of luck then I won't get oil dripping down here or on top of the engine making a real mess. Okay, so let's get that back together and then we can get the piston back on and get the cylinder back on with a bit of luck. And I have got a new base gasket sitting in there, a new head gasket, and I think that one sitting back there is a new inlet gasket. I've only got the one, not the two. That one's a different size. This kit is off a different bike, so it's a YZ400, and that's slightly different because you get this weird gasket up the top here that I think is the oiler or something along those lines. But we have got the crankcase, the clutch case gasket and the stator gasket. So I'll be using those later, but for now we'll get this together. Okay, so piston and rings back on and bottom gasket in place. I did put a bit of silicone under it, couldn't decide either or, and might put a bit on the top too. Just can't quite decide. It's good to have a seal. It's a pain in the bum when you're taking it apart. Anyways, let's keep going. So we'll get the cylinder back on and then we can start getting the carby back on. So I've got the new piston back in and the head bolts torqued up and sounding pretty sweet. Not looking a huge difference to the old one, but definitely still looking pretty sweet. So we'll just keep going and get the head back on, get the cylinder gasket back on, and off we go. Right, so carby's back on and tightened up on the inlet there. We've got the piston was just in before, just about to get the head back on, and got the airbox all nicely cleaned up, ready to go back in. So we are slowly getting there. Just greased up the linkages and should be good just to get that head back on. Okay, let's keep going. All back together then. So we got the exhaust on with the springs, we've got the silencer on at the back, we've got a bit of fuel in the carby. Just put the choke on and we'll see if we can get it started. The compression is insane now that we've got those new rings in there, so it'll be really interesting to see how we fire up, but let's give it a go and see what happens. just check the compression compared to the old piston, which you might see in my other video. I'll look the numbers up there and see how we go. So I've got the gauge connected, got that tightened in with the adapter. Should be pretty good. So I'll just get kicking. I think I might need to jam this a little bit. We'll see if we can do it this way. Otherwise I might have to stop while we just top it up. So it's at 0 at the moment. Okay, I'm going to just kick that a few times, see what we can get it up to. 12 kicks later, and we got that up to 150 psi 10 bar. Now that's without any oil or fuel in there, so it's just how it ran last time. So we might just try something and see what we can get it to. Okay, otherwise, thanks for watching that. Of WD-40 in the cylinder. It didn't really make much difference, just a couple of psi more. Alright, so thanks for watching, and hope that was interesting for somebody. And we'll see what we get on with the next project. Get this back together and go for a ride.